Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collinwood for YouTube, and I'm here to give a review of the movie Doctor Sleep, which is a sequel to the original Shining. Stephen King's The Shining, directed by the legendary, the late, great Stanley Kubrick. Now, I love the original Shining. Is it my favorite film by Kubrick? No, Doctor Strangelove is actually, which is, if you've never seen it, is funny as hell. You will, if you take that war movie seriously, there's something wrong. Um, it's just a funny film. It's funny from start to finish. So I'm here to review Doctor Sleep, which stars Ewan McGregor. You know, before I get into the actual film, there's always this expectation of a sequel. It should be as great as the original, or at least, not necessarily better than as great as it. And I think that's always such a high bar to set. And I'm going to use Halloween 2, the original Halloween 2, as an example. When I first watched Halloween 2, I watched it on television. So I didn't have any expectation for it. I didn't know what it was going to be. But I was pleasantly surprised by what it was. With this, same thing. With Doctor Sleep, I love the fact that you have Danny Torrance coming back, because it's really, sometimes sequels could go off on a whole different story, which I don't mind. Certainly, if you've watched the original Shining that starred Jack Nicholson, you already knew that Danny Torrance was not the only person with the ability to the Shining, um, to do that ability. There was a character, an African American man. I forget his name offhand right now, but he was a character who could do the ability. Also, he got killed in The Shining. Jack Torrance, Danny's dad, took an axe to his chest, and he died in the house, in the Overlook Hotel, I should say. Um, Now you meet this little girl, and she's wandering off, to the flowers, and I guess that I'm gonna say she had the ability of the Shining as well. And these group of people who aren't necessarily human kill her. Now, not all of these people here are from the Overlook, but there's people who, these people take what they call mist, I believe, out of people's body. To me, I would I would word it as their life force. They're stealing your life force out of you. That's how I would interpret it. That's where Doctor Sleep is very strange. But again, I think that's a good thing, because hell, The Shining was strange. I think this movie, the you know, it did a lot of things very well. It kept the psychology of the original. And at first, you meet this girl who gets killed by this group of people who aren't necessarily people. They have special abilities. They have, you know, the ability to track down people who have the Shining. I wouldn't necessarily say these people have the Shining themselves. They have their own unique abilities. Each individual, I would say. And so Danny Torrance is obviously an adult in this movie. And this is after his mom's death. Now they do show him as a kid where he's locking up the African American character from the original Shining. had showed him a trick where given him this box, and he to lock the ghosts that were coming after him from the Overlook in those boxes. And so he did that. And those ghosts were wanting to steal his life force. These people though that are after these other people, they're not ghosts. They're physical beings. Again, just with special abilities. And Danny Torrance, as an adult, he's drinking, he's getting into fights. There's a hint to where a girl he slept with died and the baby she had died. And after that, he sort of stops drinking and he sort of chooses to bury his ability, or at least suppress it to a large degree. Now, he joins a group of where people, self-help groups, which you might want to call, where they sobriety groups, where he's trying to quit. Yeah, AA, where he's trying to quit drinking, and he's taken in by this guy who's really nice, and so who offers him work and a place to stay. So he takes it and he starts working. He slowly does get better, but in the process, he also meets this girl telepathically because of his ability and her ability, the Shining, that this girl's communicating with him and he's communicating back with her, obviously. And lo and behold, the girl starts sensing a boy who is playing baseball has the Shining, and he gets killed by these people with special abilities. We'll say, again, they're not people necessarily. They're just they're powerful beings, I'll say. And so she's looking in on what's happening, and she sees these people. Well, slowly but surely, she sort of starts going after them a bit, but they also come after her. And she obviously, before they get to her, she reaches out to Danny. She tracks. She knows where Danny Torrance is. She goes to him. She goes, "You gotta help me. You gotta help me." And he tells her to bury her Shining, and they won't find her, because that's what he did. And the African American character, who's been a ghost in this whole story, which is amazing. And I'm going to get to something else in this movie that's real interesting. But he tells him, "You got to help her. You got to help her, because they know where she is. They know who she is." The whole time, Danny Torrance has also been working in hospice care, and he's been helping these people move on into heaven. Sort of ease their mind a bit, as they call him, Dr. Sleep, which is really interesting. So that and this cat goes in the room and he senses when someone's going to die. So, with that being said, obviously Danny decides to Danny decides to help the girl, and they set a trap for these people, and they start killing most of them. They get all but two, the main woman and her sidekick, her main sidekick. They end up killing him after he kidnaps the girl. Danny sort of enters the girl's mind. She lets him, and they kill him. Danny takes this little girl. He says there's this place that is dangerous for people like us. But if it's dangerous for people like us, it's definitely dangerous for people like them. And that place is the Overlook Hotel in Denver, Colorado. And I love that they go back here. But there's also, this is where the movie gets a little flawed toward the end, and I'll get to that. I'm going to address this. They obviously recast Danny's mom and Jack Torrance, who was, Jack Torrance was famously played by Jack Nicholson. And listen, there will never, ever, ever be another Jack Nicholson. Ever. If you've watched Jack Nicholson's movies like I have, you know this is true. I'm not just talking Batman or The Shining. I'm talking about Chinatown, Wolf, The Two Jakes. Jack is Jack, baby. And that's just it. I mean, there's no replacing Jack Nicholson. But I do think the actors who they got to play his mother and the actor who they got to play Jack Torrance did a serviceable job. They didn't do a horrible job with the characters, but again, you who you're replacing, those are large shoes to fill. I mean, huge. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So they get to the Overlook Hotel, Danny and this little girl, and obviously the woman who is the main protagonist or main antagonist comes there, and Danny wakes up the house. He talks to his dad, which was, again, it was a really great scene. I think the scene was well done. I have no problem with that part. I love most of the scenes in the hotel. It's my biggest issue with this film is its end. I don't know how many. I'm sure a lot of people, most people, have watched the original Shining, and I'm sure most people have seen the TV movie with the guy from Wins, where it was a mini series basically, in chapters, if you will, if you want to say, as a buddy of mine said. And yeah, Daniel Culver, shout out to him. He, like he said, it was in chapters. The Shining that was on TV. In that Shining, Jack Torrance forgets about the boiler room, and the house blows up. And as soon as he starts the boilers, pours the gas, I'm thinking, don't tell me they're gonna copy that end. And they do. They pretty much do. Um, and I hated that. I mean, I wish you could have thought of something a little different than blowing up that hotel, because I get why they blew up the hotel to in the series, because it was still in service. In the movie, it's not. It's shut down. No one's using the Overlook. So what was the point of setting the fire? I mean, I guess you could point to, well, they needed to get the cops' attention, and that did. I mean, that does make sense, but I just feel, again, you could have did something different than copy that end of from the mini series. What do I give this movie? I start off talking about how sequels do not surpass the original. And no, I don't think this does. But I think it did a really, really serviceable job and a good job of telling you a lot of things about Danny and his life decisions, and about how each Shining character made their own life decisions and makes their own life decisions. I also think, most importantly, the thing I take away most is, if there's one place like the Overlook Hotel where it's dangerous to the Shining people, there's more places like the Overlook Hotel. Meaning, there's just like there's other people with the ability to shine, and there's a danger to those people with those beings out there. There's more of those beings out there, that they did hint in Doctor Sleep. then there's more places like the Overlook Hotel. Maybe maybe the Cecil Hotel. Maybe, Alcatraz Island is like that. Maybe Castle Brom, Dracula's castle is like that. Maybe the Bastille. Yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of places they could use that are like that, that are like the Overlook Hotel, but not the Overlook Hotel. There are places that are as like pictures, but with people who are shining, they're just not pictures. Those things can hurt you. I give this movie a solid 8.5. It's really, really good. It is. It's a movie I definitely want to buy. But again, and this is some, maybe I'll do a separate video about sequels and originals. You're never gonna please everybody, and that's what I'll say. It does everything a sequel should have did, other than have a solid ending. And again, I've had issues with movies that just have endings that I feel don't do the movie great justice. I don't feel this movie's end did a great justice, but at the same time, it didn't necessarily kill the film. It didn't make me go, "Oh my God, that ruined the whole movie." No, it didn't do that. There are movies that have done that for me, but not this one. So this movie, Doctor Sleep, gets an 8.5. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know you guys' thoughts of Doctor Sleep.